Hello everyone, welcome back to Iron Shield Media. Today we take a hard look at one of Russia's most ambitious defense projects and frankly one of its most embarrassing, the so-called robot tank built to change battlefield dynamics but instead ended up as a case study in over-promise and under-delivery. Let's start with the exterior. The platform in question, widely reported as the Uran-9 unmanned ground combat vehicle, is a tracked vehicle roughly 5 meters long and weighing about 10-12 tons. The national interest Play 3 Wikipedia plus 3, its design places it between a heavy remote-controlled robot and a light armored tank, meaning it can be transported relatively easily compared to full main battle tanks, but still packs significant weaponry. On display you see a turret mounting a 30 mm autocannon, a coaxial 7.62 mm machine gun anti-tank guided missile, and optionally thermobaric rocket launchers. The national interest plus in 2 business insider Pluxu 2, the tracks give it the ability to maneuver over rough terrain, and the vehicle uses diesel engine power and a tracked chassis to approximate conventional tank mobility. The appearance was intended to convey cutting-edge robotics, unmanned, network, linked to drones, and reconnaissance. But as extensive reporting shows, many of the promised capabilities never materialized. For instance, the remote link range, the autonomous detection and engagement systems, and the fire on the move capability all fell short. Business Insider Plug, visually the exterior gives the impression of a futuristic war machine, but the hardware beneath was plagued by reliability issues, broken suspension components, control signal losses, and limited sensor stabilization. United 24 Media Pl1 moving to the interior. Though interior is slightly misleading since the system is unmanned, instead of a crew compartment you have a remote control module or an operator station in a separate vehicle which receives sensor feeds from the robot and issues commands. In many deployments the control was via a radio link from an armored truck, and in some cases a handheld unit could also be used. The national interest from video and reports we know the operator interface included electro, optical, and thermal imaging sensors mounted atop the turret, giving views of terrain and targets, and the control station relayed these feeds. The interiorized electronics and communication hardware were meant to enable network coordination of multiple units, up to 4 machines in a string-out formation or 4 miles apart in theory. The national interest Plav-1, unfortunately, in practice the remote link range was far less effective control, range only to a few hundred meters in field circuits, rather than kilometers, especially in urban terrain. Business Insider Plus1, now let's talk about performance. The Uran-9 has a leap in unmanned ground combat systems. However, the story is dominated by shortcomings. Reports from its deployment or testing in Syria indicate it suffered repeated control link losses, 17 lapses of up to 1 minute, and 2 of up to 1 hour and a half. Business Insider, its remote range in built-up areas collapsed to around 300-400 mems, far short of the market of 1.8 miles, approx 3 or more. Business Insider Fobs 1, when moving, its sensors, thermal and electro-optical, were reported as useless because of lack of stabilization. United 24 Media Li-1 Fire Commands experienced delays, sometimes significant. The suspension and rollers were unreliable, limiting off-road operation. The national interest Plasta 1, the promised network autonomous engagement modes, didn't live up to expectation. The system ended up being described by one senior Russian researcher as not able to perform the assigned tasks in classic types of combat operations, and that the maturity was still 10-15 years away. The national interest Pluffa 1, in short, great on paper, weak in reality. It could still shoot, but the connectivity, sensor, mobility, and fire reliability shortcomings made it more of a liability than a breakthrough. Moving on to safety features. Given the unmanned nature, some of the safety concerns for crew are removed. No human inside the vehicle means no direct risk of crew casualties from hits while inside the platform. That was one of the selling points. The armor plating is said to provide protection from shell splinters and small arms fire. The national interest Pluffa 1, the design also allows the control station to be physically separated from the vehicle, meaning the operator might be stationed further away. Sensor redundancy and remote link were intended to provide situational awareness without exposing humans to direct fire. However, safety in terms of reliability becomes its Achilles heel. When the remote link fails or the sensors malfunction, the unmanned vehicle becomes uncontrolled or ineffective, potentially exposed to enemy action or stranded. The limited control range implies the support vehicle is still within danger zone, thus undermining one's safety benefit. The safety feature promise of no human crew inside is offset by the risk of losing remote connectivity and therefore exposing the controlling team. Furthermore, failures of mobility or sensors raise the risk of creating stranded vehicles that could be captured or destroyed, which is a safety and strategic risk for the operating force. Now, what about unique selling points, USPs? When first announced, the project had several headline features: unmanned ground combat, meaning reduced human casualties, remote operation from safe distance, integration with drones and network systems, a 30-meter autocannon plus anti-tank guided missiles and rocket launchers providing significant firepower for a small size. The national interest +1 lightweight compared to full battle tanks, a 10-12 tons vs 40 Thompson tons, meant greater strategic flexibility, ease of transportation, presumably lower logistical footprint. Also, the ability to operate in urban complex terrain with reduced risk to personnel was marketed as a major advantage. The idea of networked units that can operate in concert with infantry and drones was futuristic. But the challenge is that while the USPs look compelling, the execution failed to deliver many of them. The remote link reliability, the sensor stabilization, the real fire on move capability, and autonomy were all weak points. Therefore, the selling points remain interesting in theory, but are undermined by practical shortcomings. If one were to salvage the USPs, however, unmanned operation, modular weapons, network capability, lighter weight, remote control, those remain the core benefits if fully realized. Then we turn to price and cost considerations. Official price numbers for the Euro 9 are not widely publicized in the open domain, but the development cost, testing, and fielding of unmanned systems of this complexity are significant. Given the reliability issues, ongoing maintenance, and the need for support vehicles, spare parts, communications infrastructure, the real lifetime cost likely exceeds initial budgets. Some sources argue that because the platform performed poorly in initial combat trials, it may require major redesign and upgrades, which raises cost further. Business Insider +1, from a procurement standpoint, deploying large numbers of such vehicles requires not just the platform, but control infrastructure, training, maintenance, sensor suites, and secure communications networks, again raising cost. And if real combat performance is limited, the cost-benefit ratio becomes questionable. In marketing the system to export customers, the cost becomes even more critical. Lack of export orders suggests customers may have balked at cost vs performance. United 24 Media HUMILIATED, therefore, while we can't quote a precise price, we can say the total cost of ownership is high, and given the performance, the value proposition is weak. Finally, conclusion. In sum, the Russian robot tank project promised a lot: unmanned, networked, lighter, highly armed, but as our review shows, the actual field performance fell far short. The external design looked futuristic, yet reliability issues emerged. The interior remote operator architecture was sound in theory, but limited in real operations. Performance in testing revealed serious link, sensor, mobility, and fire control problems. Safety features existed, but were compromised by connectivity and vulnerability issues. The unique selling points were compelling, but undermined by poor execution, and cost features further reduced the attractiveness given the performance gap. The result is a system that, while perhaps still evolving, for now constitutes a disappointment and a cautionary tale in military robotics. For Russia, and for anyone looking at unmanned ground combat vehicles, the lesson is clear. Hardware, communications, sensors, and software must all work reliably under battlefield conditions. And so far, this platform hasn't reached that threshold. For viewers interested in military tech, it's a reminder that hype often outpaces reality. If you're looking for a robot tank that works today, this one isn't quite there yet. Thanks for watching. If you like this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. See you next time.